What does it mean to be loyal? Now, what if you were a spy, a killer, and a shapeshifter who could look like anyone, be anyone? You'd probably think loyalty isn't in the vocabulary, but that's where you'd be wrong. Today we're diving into the woman of 1,000 faces, who is paradoxically defined by one single unchanging heart, Raven Darkhölme, the one and only Mystique. Welcome back to Marvel Echoes Resonance. I'm your host, Will, and thank you for joining me today. Today, we're tackling one of the most complex, compelling, and flat-out dangerous characters in the entire Marvel Universe. Mystique is one of those figures, like Doctor Doom, who just steals every single panel she's in. And if you've known her only from the movies as that silent, blue-skinned enforcer for Magneto, you're in for a treat. The comic book version is a century-old spy, a political terrorist, a manipulative mother, and the most tragically romantic character in X-Men history. Because here's the central paradox with Mystique. Her origin spark isn't her power, it's her purpose. When she first appeared in Ms. Marvel way back in 1978, she's a villain. She's the new leader of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and she's trying to kill Carol Danvers. Seems pretty standard, until you find out why. Years of continuity would reveal that Mystique wasn't attacking Carol for power, or territory, or just for, well, kicks. She was doing it because her lover, the precog mutant Irene Adler, also known as Destiny, had foreseen that Carol Danvers would one day bring grave harm to their adopted daughter, Rogue. Think about that. Mystique's very first act in Marvel Comics, the one that branded her a supervillain, was a misguided, desperate attempt to protect her child, based on a prophecy from the woman she loved. That's the key. To find her true origin, you have to go back way further. Raven Darkhölme was born in the late 19th or maybe early 20th century. It's a little foggy. Her blue skin and yellow eyes meant her powers manifested as a curse. She learned to use her shapeshifting to survive, to hide, to be anyone but herself. She was a ghost. But her life found its meaning, its anchor, when she met Irene. Irene was blind, but haunted by terrifying, cryptic visions of the future. Raven's powers gave them means to act on those visions. Irene's love gave Raven a reason to exist. Her shapeshifting, a power of infinite change, became anchored to an immutable purpose, serving the visions of a woman she loved. And that single, all-consuming devotion is the entire engine of her history. And its echoes, they're devastating, especially when it comes to her children. Mystique, if you're not aware, has 3 children, and each one is a perfect, tragic reflection of her core motivation. First, you have the adopted daughter she raised, Rogue. We touched on her during our Rogue episode last week, but the story is, well, perfect, and it's a tragic loop. Raven and Irene adopted a young runaway Anna Marie and raised her as their own. They were a family, but the prophecy about Carol Danvers hung over them. In Avengers Annual number 10, as we discussed, Mystique decides to take Carol off the board before she can hurt Rogue. The plan goes horribly, horribly wrong. Rogue permanently absorbs Carol's powers and psyche, leaving her a shattered husk. Mystique's attempt to prevent the prophecy is the very act that fulfills it. The trauma is what drives Rogue to flee her mother's and seek help from other people. In trying to save her daughter, well, she lost her. Then you have her son she disowned, Graydon Creed. This is a dark reflection of her devotion. Graydon was her son with, well, of all people, Sabretooth. But the child was born a baseline human. To Mystique, whose entire life was dedicated to this mutant-centric mission with Destiny, a human son was an inconvenience, a failure, so she abandoned him. That single act of rejection is Graydon Creed's original spark. It fueled a lifetime of resentment that twisted him into one of the mutant race's most dangerous human enemies, the founder of the anti-mutant terrorist group, the Friends of Humanity. Mystique, a woman whose life was devoted to protecting mutants, personally created one of the most vicious persecutors. The irony is staggering. And finally, we have the son she sacrificed, Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler. For decades, this was Mystique's greatest sin. The story was a convoluted mess involving demon mutants, infidelity, and it was a whole thing, right? The bottom line was that she callously threw her demonic-looking baby over a waterfall to save herself. It was the ultimate proof of her monstrous nature. That was until X-Men Blue Origins number 1 in 2023. This issue didn't just retcon the story, it restored it to what the original writer Chris Claremont had always intended. Here's the truth. Destiny, longing for a child with Raven, was Kurt's biological mother. Mystique, in an act that suggests her powers are far beyond simple mimicry, used her shapeshifting to fundamentally alter her own genetics, and, well, became Kurt's biological father. He wasn't conceived in sin or infidelity, he was conceived in love. And the abandonment? It was a sacrifice. Attacked by furious villagers, Destiny had a vision. Giving Kurt up was the only way he would survive. The trauma of this choice was so profound, so unbearable, that both women consensually asked Professor X to alter their memories. Destiny chose to forget it all. Mystique, she refused to forget that he was her son, forcing Xavier to leave a fractured, broken narrative in her mind. The false memories of a cruel mother who abandoned her child. Of course, we'll cover Nightcrawler in a future episode. But her perceived cruelty, her greatest sin, it was a psychic scar, peppering over an act of love so painful she had to break her own mind just to survive it. So that brings us to the modern era, and this undying, all-consuming love for Destiny is the engine for her entire story. It defines her past, and it absolutely dictates her present. So let's fast forward to the Krakoan age. The mutants found their own nation, and it came with a promise: resurrection for all. For Mystique, this was the entire point. Destiny had been dead for years, killed in a mission. This was Raven's one chance to get her wife back, but the nation of Krakoa was built on a lie. A secret cabal, Myra McTaggart, Xavier, Magneto, decreed that no precogs would ever be resurrected. It was to protect their secret and what they thought sacred timeline, but it meant one thing to Raven: Destiny must stay dead. So they lied to her. They put her on the new Quiet Council. They dangled the promise of Irene's return in front of her, forcing her to go on suicide missions against Nimrod, all while having zero intention of ever delivering. They made a very, very big mistake. They forgot who they were dealing with, and they forgot what Destiny herself had seen. In a pivotal flashback in X-Men number 6, we learn Destiny's final prophecy and a command she gave to her wife decades ago. They will lie to you. They will use you. If they will not, then burn that place to the ground. And that's exactly what she did. The Inferno event of 2021 is the culmination of Mystique's entire life story. Realizing she's been played, she single-handedly outmaneuvers the smartest, most powerful beings on the planet. She exposes the foundational lies of Krakoa. She shatters the Quiet Council, and she forces Destiny's resurrection. She burned their entire paradise to the ground, just to make good on a promise to the woman she loved. So, where is she now? As we head into 2026, the Krakoan dream has fallen. The From the Ashes era is in, well, full swing. But the one thing that has remained constant, the one thing that survived the fall, is Raven and Irene. They're together again, finally and textually married, and operating as an ultimate mutant power couple. They'd probably give her daughter a run for the money. Mystique's story was never about a villain redeeming herself. It was about a woman on a righteous, century-long quest who was just finally proven right. She's a woman of 1,000 faces, but she's always been a woman of one heart. And for that heart, she will watch the world burn. So I'll leave you with this thought. After a century of lies, betrayals, and acts of terror, does the fact that it was all driven by a genuine, profound love for one person make her actions understandable? Or does it just make her more terrifying, effective, and strangely noble kind of monster? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for listening to this episode of Marvel Echoes. If you enjoyed the deep dive, make sure you subscribe or follow so you don't miss any of our future episodes. Leaving a like and a review really helps the podcast grow. Leave a comment for future episode ideas and characters you'd like me to cover next. And for more content, including articles, infographic, and everything we discussed today, be sure to visit our website in the links below. Until next time, true believers, make mine Marvel.